Everybody, welcome to the Landscape Special Interest Group. We're going to look at mainly one thing today, and that is how do we deal with this kind of information? Oh, well, Jane, you've even given me one with a curve in it.
I know, that threw me completely. I can't even do the straight line paths.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to start somewhere. I normally start next to the curve, and I'll do the curve at the very last minute. Now, one of the things I'm going to do, Jane, is I'm going to scale this. Now, this is a scanned image that's rasterized. It's not vector-based information. And I can tell that because as I get closer to it, it turns into a bunch of dots. So it's not lines, it's dots, which makes it very difficult to scale. It means that I can't snap to something on here because there's nothing to snap to because it's just a bunch of dots. So I'll do the best I can, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and scale this as close as I can to the right length. I've got a distance here. Sorry, Barry, it's in metric, but it's 47. Okay. Is that 47.77 meters?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so, well, I couldn't tell if it was a port 2 or a 47, that was all. So first thing, we're gonna scale our objects. So make sure you got your PDF page selected. We're gonna scale our objects. Symmetric, we're going to use the center of this dot. So I use the Z key to zoom in, click there. Z key again to zoom in, the center of that one. And this should be 47.77. Don't forget the M. Now make sure, Jane, at this point, you don't scale the entire drawing. It will corrupt absolutely everything in your file. So let's just scale the text. So this should be about the right size. Now, what I tend to do is to start, because you've got a curve here, I'll start next to the curve and I'll work my way around. Now, it looks to me as though this is not north straight up the page. I'm pretty convinced that north is not straight up the page. Now, let's go through survey information.
Oh, yeah, sure isn't.
Now, a surveyor has got north straight up the page. Sorry to confuse people, but north is up. 24, that's not big enough.
So it's got a north arrow to the right of what we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah, there's a north arrow over there.
Yep.
There's also 1 degree 39 minutes.
That could be pretty good, that one there, that north arrow. But before we go too far, let's just make sure we understand north, east, and so on. A surveyor treats this angle going up north as 0 degrees and treats the line going to the east as 90 degrees. Let's look in Vectorworks. What does Vectorworks say? So Vectorworks says that, so the survey says this should be 0 degrees. Vectorworks says this is 90 degrees. The surveyor says this is 90 degrees, and Vectorworks says that's 0. It's completely all, I don't know how to put it politely. Back to front. You know what I meant, Barry. Okay, so the surveyor calls that one 180 degrees. Vectorworks calls it minus 90. And the surveyor calls this one 270 degrees, and Vectorworks calls it 180. It doesn't relate to what we're looking at, does it, Jane?
No.
So one of the things I can do with Vectorworks is I can rotate this north arrow here. And I'm using my Z key to zoom in. I can rotate that vertically up the page, and that might be a lot closer than we were starting with. Good call, Derek. So we've now rotated our page.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this into a group. Group that. Now, just to remind everybody, I'm going to go inside this group and I'm going to put some text, 0 degrees. And that needs to be bigger. 0 degrees. So is that right, Jane? So north is 0 degrees.
Yes.
East is, what's east, Jane?
90.
Cool. And we'll probably need one more of these. Angeli, what's that one? 270. Okay, so we stick this here where we're starting, Jane, just as an idea so we can keep an eye on where we're going relative to what they think. So the survey says that this is 45 degrees in 19 minutes. So if we look at it now, Jane, it's going up at kind of 45 degrees from 0, isn't it?
Yes.
If I draw a line from this point here to that point there, Vectorworks doesn't think it's anything like 45. Something strange, 43. How does Vectorworks, how are we going to take care of this? So you've got a complex issue here, I think, Jane, that the property line may not be the best thing to use to start with. It might be better to start with just some basic lines.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is north, this is east. If I click here to start a line, and I go, which way do I do it? I think I can do it in there. No. No, the length is 8.02 m. It's the length. Now the angle. I'm going to put a north and an east in first, Jane, because the survey measures in New Zealand northing and easting from north, 45 degrees, 19 minutes. And that's where it should be. The next line, Jane. I'll start from there. The length should be 47.77 m. And the angle should be northing and easting. And I'll go back 1 degree, 1D, 39 minutes, M for minutes.
Do you put a dot between them?
Nope.
No, 39 minutes.
So this is a trick in Vectorworks where you can type in, I'll just make the text really big so you can see it. Text, let's make it 72. So what I do is I type in, to start with, I type in a north and I use capitals just to help me out. I do north and east. I type that in for the angle of the line. And then I go one step back and I go 1D 39M OOS degrees, minutes, and seconds. Now, I'm not sure, Barry, whether this is a well-known technique in Vectorworks, but if you use northing and easting, put an N and E in front of it, and you put in the angle, Vectorworks will calculate that in using survey angles.
Okay.
I'm guessing from what you just said, it's an unknown thing, and it's one of those wonderful undocumented techniques that you can use in Vectorworks if you knew how to find it. Being undocumented makes it difficult to find, and you need someone to tell you. So Jane, is that news?
No, I tried this technique, but it didn't help me. So keep going.
So now the next one. So from the end of that line, so I find the end of that line. We're going 32.4 m, and then I go northing and easting, and I go 31D 40 M 10S. Enter once. Cool. So what's going on with this one? This is where it starts to go awry, isn't it, Jane?
Yeah, it's got to be in.
Because the survey has given that as 31 degrees, but it's nothing like 31 degrees. It's going up that way.
It looks Oh.
There's no 1 missing, is there? Okay, so I'm going to leave that one. I'm going to go back to this one here. Zoom in, click there. Let's go to this one. Okay, so this one is the distance 34m. So 34.2m tab. And this is northing and easting again. And we're going to go 239 degrees, 23 minutes, 40s. Tab once. Now that's pretty close, Jane, isn't it? That one?
Yeah.
I don't know how he got 82 degrees for those ones. He's got a rotated.
Yeah, he's got rotated by what I can't think of.
Is it something to do with the fact we're working on a rotated plan?
Well, it shouldn't be, because what I'm looking at, Derek, is this 82 degrees relative to the north arrow.
Mm.
Makes no sense.
It makes no sense. So what could it possibly be? So what I'm doing, Jane, I'm looking for ones that I think I can fill in, is what I'm really doing. This one here, 73 degrees, again, is one of those weird ones. Oh no, it's not too bad, is it?
No,
So let's start here. Z key to zoom in. Where's it gone? It's not zooming in. So let's zoom in. So click here to start. We're coming across, so tab key, we're coming across 8.43m tab, and we're going northing and easting again, northing and easting. 73 degrees, 22m, 40s. Enter once, enter again. That's not too bad. It's pretty close. Let's click that one. This one is 33.92 meters tab, and we are, I can't read it now, the thing's in the way. There we are.
33 degrees.
Northing and easting, 33D, 36M. Enter once.
Do you not put the 0 seconds?
If it's 0 seconds, I don't worry about it.
Yeah, right.
But we've got that at 32 meters there, 32 meters boundary, but it hasn't gone all the way. Okay. We seem to be missing some information here. 33.92 meters.
It's where it comes off the curve, I think, down at the start.
Oh yeah.
You reckon it comes off this point?
Around.
Well, that's about the same distance.
Yeah, but this information here, these are spot levels.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
It better be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What are these notes? What are they? 34.20 over there and the 33.
Oh, those are my notes, just writing down the distances of the boundary, because I was trying to use the property,
Yeah.
the other approach, and it wasn't working. So.
Okay, so I got some of it. So these ones here, Jane, I have no way of knowing what is 31 degrees measured from what. I don't know, because that to me doesn't seem correct. North is here, and 30 degrees would be up that way, less than 45. If I draw my little, where's my little, this little thing here? Let's stick that one there. So that one's much more like a 90 degree line than a 31 degree line. I have really no way of knowing where they've got that information from. And this is the best you've got?
Yeah.
I'd go back to that consultant and say what's going on.
Yeah, it's dated 95, the year of 95. So
1995.
Oh,
I have requested a new topographical survey, so that resolves that. But I was just trying to do some initial planning work and getting the boundaries set up.
Yeah, I don't.
I just
think,
tied
Derek,
myself in knots trying to do this one.
there's something wrong, Derek, with that
yeah.
boundary length. But normally, what you get is you'd get another boundary of this sort here. You'd get another dimension there if it was to that point, and then you get an overall length for that boundary.
Yeah.
I don't think this is 82 either, and it's almost as if they've turned something. What can we do?
Can you create those two
Normally,
lines?
would you be? Sorry, Jane.
I was just thinking, could you create those two lines just based on what he said in case they relate to each other, and then see how they might come and join to the ends of the two that are working?
Well, I could do so. Zoom into here. For some reason, when I zoom in, I'm not getting blankness. Oh, it's because I rotated my PDF, I guess. So from now, I've had trouble with PDF since I'm not sure why I've got trouble with PDFs, but I have started to get trouble with PDFs now. When I zoom in, they seem fine. If I use the Z key to zoom in, I don't get the same abilities. So those two there, Jane, I've got those drawn, but they're nothing like the dimensions that he's got there.
If you entered the dimensions that he's got and added the, kept on working your way around, would it create that angle that you could then just move that angle to the connecting point there on the left?
So I could create one of these and make this 32.4 m long, and that's way up.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried scaling
and
off
this one,
and nothing worked.
This one's 29.97 meters.
Short.
That one's short. So those two lines, move the PDF, I'll move that.
So say we had a file that was working. Is the best way when you get one of these old survey information to work in the way that you're showing, creating these lines, rather than going into the property line and using the simple bearing approach?
If it's easy, then use the simple bearings, which you can always go back to using this number system if you want with the simple bearing. But as soon as you start getting a complicated one, it's easier to put the lines in that you can put in. So for example, if we just get rid of this, let's just undo that. Let me just cut that PDF file. So what I've got so far is incomplete information that doesn't allow me to work very well. But on the other hand, Jane, I've got enough to start positioning the house if I wanted to. And I could, I don't know if this is correct, the location of this house.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's
You
correct.
won't know until you get a survey. But I would say that while it's poor information, it's enough to get you started. So that you could actually get started on it. You could start to plan some things around, you know where north is. You could start to think about where you're going to put certain features. Now this curve here is very difficult. Normally we have an actual curve radius. One of the other problems we might have here that we don't know about is, has this scanned image been corrupted in some way to squish it in the vertical or the horizontal dimension? And it's quite possible that because this is from an old microfiche, I think.
Yeah, I would say so.
Oh yeah, there it is there, it's microfiled. That's a tiny little thing the size of, like your little fingernail, and when they blow it up, there could be distortion in the lenses that when they print it, cause it to be the wrong size.
Mm.
But there's something weird here that is so far out. All the others are really close, and this is a long way out, this one, that we don't know. But one of the things I do tend to do, Jane, so let's say that we've done the best we can. Let's get rid of that. Let's move these two lines. I'll move this line here to join that line. Let's say, for example, that we've found the solution, which is to join those together. So we've got part of everything. Right click. Do you remember, Jane, I've added this to my right click, the select connected objects.
Mm-hmm.
So it joins them all together, and then I can right click and I can compose. Now that's a polygon. Now let's say, for example, you knew the radius of that curve through here. You go to your arc tool. We're going to use arc and radius. So click there, click there. Now we know the radius is 20 meters, for example. If I grab that curve, and where's my attributes palette? Over there. So let's make that attribute 0, so it's got no fill. Probably what I'll do is to select that and go clip surface, right click and go clip surface. And there's my completed property line. Well, it's not a property line yet. I can go right click and I can go create objects from shapes, and now I can make a property line from it. And that's probably how I would do it if it's a complicated one.
Right, yeah.
So do all the drawing, get all the sizes you want, and then at the last minute, you can make that into a property line. So I start here at the curve, because the curves are always awkward. Then draw as much as you can. Now, there are times when you're drawing these lines where you have to go backwards against the surveyor. Bearings help. I always find the bearings, the American bearings, are weird because they put the northings and eastings and southings and westerns, south and west.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree.
We tend to use azimuth. But you'll also notice, Jane, that those azimuth dimensions don't line up with the survey information.
No.
If I've got a DX survey information, I will use that and turn off my property line. If I've got what you've got, the paper copy, you've really got little choice but to turn these on, change the text size so that it's small, and then you can choose whether or not you want to annotate some of those pieces.
There isn't any way of converting those back to the way that surveyors use?
No, it won't convert back easily to the one the surveyors used.
Can you modify those? Like if you were looking at that 59.2340 and it's 34.2 and mine was saying it was 35 meters, can I modify the property line by editing here?
Double click. So you can't change the number, you can't change the 59 without changing the angle.
Right.
So let's go back to this.
Other drafting software, do they do the same thing as Vectorworks, or do they stick with the surveyors?
I don't know is the real answer. I'm trying to think what ArchiCAD does. ArchiCAD uses a different thing completely. ArchiCAD only in New Zealand, or unless you buy the add-on. Out of the box, ArchiCAD doesn't have a property line. In New Zealand, they sell ArchiCAD, they sell an upgrade to ArchiCAD, which has got a property line type object, which will create the three-dimensional property restrictions, boundary restrictions. But you have to place each piece individually. And then if they join together, then they join nicely. But I'm trying to remember what they look like, but they look kind of similar to this with the funny angles. Okay, so Jane, you do need better information. That one we had here just doesn't line up. It's a couple of meters short. that says 43 meters, the survey says 32. There's something a little bit strange. I don't know where the grid information is, and we're gonna have to go back and find some good information. But I do, if I've got a curve in it, I will tend to use the property line. I will tend to use the property line with a simple dialogue.
Yeah, I just started trying that one.
Where's the simple?
Didn't know how to handle a curve.
No, so what you do with the simple one is you start here at this curve, at the end of the curve. You go all the way around to the other end of the curve, and then you say finish, close the shape.
I started trying to do those, but then I got confused of when I was doing negatives, entering negative numbers.
Yep.
So.
Well, that part of that problem with the negative numbers is to do with this curve around the side here, this number here, which
didn't make any
the survey's
sense.
information says 31 degrees, but we know it's nothing like 31 degrees.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the things to remember is this one here, and that where you've got information that says 45 degrees and it goes that direction, then you're going with the surveyor.
Yeah.
And if it says 45 degrees but it's going that way, you're going against the surveyor, and that's when you put in the negative number.
Okay.
And that's how I remember it, is using those simple ones.
Yeah, that top line that we couldn't figure out looks like it's related to the 270 90-degree line, which means maybe it's 1 degree or 2 degrees off of 270.
Well, it's 6 degrees off 270 at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm
but the
saying.
angle actually said 31, which means that it's neither 270 nor 0 nor 90 nor 180, because nothing would
Right.
get you close to that.
Right, exactly.
So it's as if it's as if he's got some change in angle. Let me bring that back in again. But even on this angle, it's not 31 degrees, is it?
No.
And that one's not 82 degrees. Let me go back to that.
Let's just put this in the it's not accurate enough information basket, and
Well, I was going to go 32.40 M. Now let's see what angle that should be. So northing and easting. 31 D 40 M 10 S. Goes that way. Well, this is far too small, isn't it? Okay, let's do the other line from there. So from the end of there, we've got another line which is
29.97
meters, and the angle is
82 D 11M 20S.
D 18M 20S. There they are, those two lines.
Right.
So
let's rotate them and see if it works.
52 degrees. I guess it's close, Jane, but it's 52 degrees and something out. So so you could do that with those coordinates. Maybe what the problem was let's K that. No. I'll turn off all my annotation. and then OK, and ungroup it. So this is now, is this now a, let's grab that. And now we'll make that into a property line. That's become even longer. That one there.
29.97
Yeah, so
length, good.
30, 33, it's become 40. This one is 34, that's correct. So it's close, but this one here, there's definitely, I'm sure there's something wrong with this dimension. It's like there's a survey point missing. I think maybe you're
Yes.
right, Derek, maybe there was something here, but they haven't listed it as being there.
Yeah,
Maybe there's something here. There might have been another point. Oh, that's a fold in the page, isn't it? Sorry, Jane, certainly is a tricky one.
yeah. That's all right. That helps. I did learn a bit more about potentially how to set things up.
So
I get a lot of these old surveys as starting
I
points.
keep coming back to this thing here, Jane, remembering that they go one direction. If you're going with them, you're going in the same direction. If you think it goes this way, but their dimension goes that way. Often what we used to find on subdivisions, where they subdivided a whole lot of sites together, that they would actually run along. So you'd have a whole lot of sites like this. So in this case, Jane, what they would do is they'd survey each of these lines here at this one after the other. They'd set up their thing at the bottom. They'd survey that one. They'd survey that one. They'd survey that one. They'd survey that one. But when you're doing it, you're starting here and you're going with the survey for this one, against the survey for that one, and against the survey for that one, and then with the survey maybe again down the bottom. So you would never be, you'd have 4 dimensions, and you'd be with the survey for 2 of them and against them for the other 2.
Mm.
Well, that was pretty awful, wasn't it, that one? Right. So that's my advice, Jane, is I always leave the curve to the last minute, and I'll put it in, and what I'll do is I'll create the entire property line, get that working, and then I'll cut the curve out at the end. I don't know if you want to do the, no, I was going to do the site thing now.
Yeah, that's so good.
Now let's have a look at this. So I've got these plants. Let's have a look. Where's my design layer? Site plan. So here's some plants. I need to add some more plants to this, Jane, to make it a little bit more effective. Cool. We've got some more plants. So let's have a look at my attributes palette. What's the arrowhead turned on for my attributes? Do I have arrowhead on? Do I have arrowheads on yet, Barry? Jane, do I have my arrowheads turned on for my default lines?
Yes, black.
So when they're turned on a Macintosh, you get a slightly darker button.
Right.
And when they're not turned on, you
They're
don't.
off. Okay.
Right. So you turn it on, then you draw a line. Great. Every time I draw a line, it's now got arrowheads. Now let's turn on, we want polygon display, centers dashed. Now sometimes when you do this, Jane, you end up with arrowheads on everything.
Yes, very annoying.
Go back to here, turn that off, and then do it again. And it might be, so let's turn that back on. Let's edit this. No, I'm not getting arrowheads at the moment, but that's usually the cause of it, that your default has the arrowheads turned on. If I do a rectangle and we go convert to lines, edit, modify, convert to lines. quite often if you do that, Jane, you'll get arrowheads on all the ends of all your lines.
Mhm.
So be careful of that.
Okay, just look for
So
the
that's the
shadow.
thing that I would look for to start with. Have you got arrows on here? If so, turn them off. The detail tag. Now I suspect I'd need to watch you doing it, Jane.
Sorry, it wasn't the detailed, it was a call out tag I was using. So I was putting a call out tag in, entering some text and labeling something. And I'd go to a new place, put the call out text and change the text, and all my call outs would update to that text.
I think I'd have to watch it. I need to see more about what you're doing, I think.
Okay.
And the section markers are a funny thing. I'm not sure if I've got a section set up here. Let's set up a section. View, create section viewport. We're going to create a section through our garden, looking that way, and a new sheet layer. Update. What layers have I got turned on? Turn on all my layers, update. So there's something wrong with my section line. Let's have a look at my section line. Advanced properties, infinite depth. Maybe that's my problem. Oh yeah, there it is. And then your data, then your drawing labels in the wrong place to start with. Okay. Okay, Jane, are you all right with the section that I've created?
Yes.
Okay. So Anjali, I don't know if you have trouble with this. When you go, let's go back to my sheet layers, and you say, why hasn't my section shown up here? I don't know if you ever had this issue. You go, where's my section line gone? And what you need to know, Anjali, is that the section has this viewport has a name. I'll call it site plan. And then I have to go back to my section. Got to find my section. I then got to go to my section and say, I want that marker to show up on the viewport called site plan. And if you don't turn that on, it doesn't show up.
I see.
Anjali, it's a bit noisy there.
I know, I'm sorry. My family is coming back and I was trying to be quiet. Sorry.
If you just mute yourself, that'll be fine. Sorry, Jane, what was the question?
Controlling the size of that initial section tag that you get on your plan view, because often I get it and it's way out of scale.
This one here.
Yeah, like the tags are too big they just dominate everything. So how do you?
So you can change it here,
Scale.
but you might find that changing it there changes it everywhere. So let me delete all of these ones. I'll just leave one of those. So I want the marker to show up here as well. And this is called solar study. Solar, I'll just call it solar. Okay, so I need to go back. This can be a bit of a pain, Jane. You've got to go back to your section. You've got to say, I want you to show up in certain places. So let's go back to my viewport. Let's make it turn on in solar. And let's have a look at solar. So let's try that again. So on this one, I move my section line. And it's moved in both viewports. You notice that?
Mm.
And then you go, okay, it's a bit small to read here, so I'm going to make this 2 times. It's easier. But you can see it's updated on both viewports.
Yeah.
So is there a better way? Let's go back to this. Let's make it 0.5 again. And okay. So is there a better way? Maybe the better way to do this, Jane, is for you to create, go back to here. Viewports, let's turn it off in solar. So you notice I've lost it here.
Mm-hmm.
So as an annotation object only, just as a pure annotation object, I'm going to put a section elevation marker. How's that?
Mm-hmm.
Now that section elevation marker is completely independent. I can make it twice as big if I want. But it's not connected, is it, to my viewport, to my section viewport?
No.
So that was an annotation that you went into the annotation.
I've
of
gone
the
into
viewport.
annotations.
Right. Okay.
Just here, Derek,
Mm.
I can link it to my viewport and it will pick up the drawing number of the viewport. But this annotation, Jane, is not connected to the creation of the section viewport. So what we
No.
should notice, if I go back to this one here and I change the length of that section viewport, it shouldn't change this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got two things happening. I've got the section elevation marker that creates the section here, and I've got a section elevation marker which doesn't create a section, but is linked to the section. They're quite different things.
Mm.
But
How
it
did you
does
get it
mean,
to link
sorry,
again? How did it get it to update its data? That when you inserted it, you said you linked it. You click on it and then go link viewport.
so I can link it to none, but that doesn't help me. What I need to do is to link this to a section. I need to link this to a viewport so that when that viewport changes its number, this will change its number. Let's have a look. We go back to my section. I don't want this to be number 1. I want this to be A-A. Section. What's happened to my drawing?
Right.
Shouldn't really have used A-A. I should just used an A. That would have been better. You see this one's also updated. Oh, where have I gone? So that's also updated, Jane.
Yes.
Now, if I go back to this one here and I edit the annotations and I move my section, this is the one that creates my cut through my building or through my site. So that's now the new section location. You notice this one didn't update.
Yeah.
So that's the only downside, is that if you move it dramatically, it doesn't always update.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? A unified view, I don't know if I can do much with that, Barry. It's either on or it's off. And if it's not on, then when you change your view, you don't see everything. Everything doesn't change. I tend to leave it on all the time. It's just convenient for me to leave it on.
Actually,
if you turn it off and you change your 3D view, you'll notice because things don't always update. Oh, this is a poor example because everything's on the one layer, Barry. But
yeah,
the unified view is fantastic for making sure that you can see a multi-story building as one complete three-dimensional model.
well,
And if you
that's what I'm
set your
trying
elevations,
to. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, and it's not working. I don't know why.
well,
I'll find
the
it
things
out.
that I would look at would be something like, have you got the elevations correct?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I've
a
done that
multi-story
before.
building. Have all the
Right.
correct elevations for these things.
Mm-hmm.
You probably remember, Jane, what I do is I set the elevation of the site plan at 0, and then my floor will be the three-dimensional height that the survey has given me. So if, for example, the floor is at 40 meters above sea level, then the elevation here would be 40.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I'll figure it out. I've had it working before, and not on this project, but that's the,
Oh,
that's where the
there's
problem
something else to
is.
look out for. Okay, the other thing to look out for, Barry, are all your layers the same scale?
There's even a thing in the unified view that says ignore differences in scale.
Yeah.
But
I would make sure they're all the same scale.
yeah, right.
Otherwise, Barry, it's a little bit weird if one's 1 to 100 and one's 1 to 50, they're the
Right.
wrong size.
Yeah, right. Well, I'll get there.
Let me know. I mean, if it's an issue, so yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna stop the recording now. I think we've run out of time. There's not many
Thank
other
you.
things to talk about. Don't go away just yet. I'm just gonna stop the movie.